Hello, and welcome to this training on understanding and using Word's Accessibility Checker. In this training, we will explain what the Accessibility Checker is, why you should use it, and how to use it. First, let's discuss what the Accessibility Checker is. The Accessibility Checker is a tool included in Microsoft Office software that helps make documents capable of being read by screen readers, as well as individuals who have vision that is different than what is typical. Next, let's discuss why we should use the Accessibility Checker. We should use the Accessibility Checker for a few different reasons. The first being that we want as many of our documents as possible to be accessible by as many people in the state of Tennessee and beyond as possible. Next, we use the Accessibility Checker because the Office of Communications has said that this is the tool that needs to be used before a document is allowed to be posted online. Please note, this is only for documents that are either Word, PowerPoint, or Excel. This does not apply to PDFs, though using this tool before creating a PDF, if necessary, is a good first step toward making sure that your document is accessible. We will go over how to use the Accessibility Checker in Excel and PowerPoint in separate videos. Finally, we use this Accessibility Checker because this is the tool that makes remediating easiest. If you have to turn a document into a PDF, there is separate software that is used for remediation. However, that software can be complicated. If it is at all possible, we want to try and keep our documents in their native format. That is to say, a Word, PowerPoint, or Excel format, in this case, Word. Protect that document from being edited, and then run the Accessibility Checker, which is significantly easier than using the remediation software needed for a PDF. Now that we've discussed what the Accessibility Checker is and why we should use it, let's discuss how to use it. Before we can use the Accessibility Checker, we need to know how to be able to find the Accessibility Checker. As it stands, there are 3 different ways to be able to find the Accessibility Checker, though one of them is probably easier to remember than the other 2. The first way to be able to find the Accessibility Checker is to come up to the menu bar and click Review, and then you will find the Accessibility Checker or Check Accessibility button right here. You will click on it, and you will find everything to the right. The second way you can find the Accessibility Checker is by going to File, Info, Check for Issues, Check Accessibility. Again, the Accessibility Assistant panel on the right-hand side opens up. The last way, and probably the easiest way, is to come to the search bar at the top and start to search Accessibility. As you can see, before you even finish typing it, it pops up. You click on the option that comes up, and there it is. So those are the 3 different ways to be able to find the Accessibility Checker. Now that we know how to find the Accessibility Checker, let's go through the Accessibility Checker to find out how to clear the different errors. As you can see, I've created a document here that has a number of different errors. We're going to go through one by one and show how to clear those errors. The first category is color and contrast. And as you can see, there is one error that shows up, hard to read contrast. And we have two different instances of hard to read contrast. I will show you how to fix each of those individually. We're going to come in here and we're going to click on hard to read contrast. And as you can see, it highlights this line of text and it gives different options. I clicked on the black option, and as you can see, it changed the text color from a light gray, which was hard to read on the white background, to black, which I just selected. Now, this line of text is as visible as it possibly can be. Black on white is the most visible ratio for visibility and is most recommended when creating documents. You can see that now that I have cleared this option, it moves down to the next line, which is a line of white text highlighted in yellow. White on yellow is a very poor color contrast and makes it very difficult to read. Again, the accessibility assistant gives us three different options to choose from for text color. In this instance, I'm going to go ahead and choose black again. And as you can see, it has cleared the errors under color and contrast, hard to read text contrast. Now, I would recommend that if at all possible, do not highlight your words, and if necessary, make sure that you have black, as black is visible on most colors. In the rare instance where the color is difficult to read with black, perhaps the highlight is a darker color, making black difficult to pick up, then I would recommend changing your text color to a lighter color, in this instance, perhaps white, or potentially changing your highlight color. Now, we've gone over hard to read text contrast, but there is one other instance of difficult to read text on this page, as you may or may not be able to see. Here, we have another line of text, which if we go to the home page, we can see that this is actually 4-point font. Without zooming in on the document, it is very difficult to read this line of text. For most documents, you want to make sure that you have at least 12-point font for your text, making it possible to read. As you can see, now all three lines of text are possible to read. Next, we will look at media and illustrations, which has one category under it, missing alt text. As you can see, I have an image here inserted into my document, but when we click on missing alt text, you will see that there is no alt text included for the highlighted image. Now, to fix this, you simply need to be able to give, as it says, 1 to 2 detailed sentences describing what is happening on the image. In this instance, we will say that it is a young girl swinging on a swing set. It does not need to be more detailed than that. It conveys what is happening in there. If you wanted, you could say something to the effect of a young girl laughing and swinging on a swing set, or a young girl enjoying herself while swinging on a swing set, but that doesn't necessarily have to be included. We're explaining what is happening in this image. And the line, young girl swinging on a swing set, conveys everything that we need to know. The information needs to be pertinent to conveying the message of the document. Now, if for some reason an image is highlighted that you know for a fact does not need to have a alt text included into it. Perhaps it is just an icon or something else that is decorative and not conveying any sort of meaning within the document. You can come down here and click Mark as Decorative, and it will ignore that image and know that it does not need to have alt text included in it. As it stands, this image does need to have alt text, so we typed it in, and we will click Save for that. As you can see, after doing so, missing alt text is grayed out and shows a check next to it. It is also worth noting that if you are creating documents and need to insert images, it can be useful to utilize the stock image library that is provided via Microsoft. You can do that by clicking on Insert, like I just did, clicking on the drop-down for pictures, and coming to Stock Images. Once it comes up, you can type singing or you can type swinging, as I did for before, and you will see there's that image that I chose. I got that image from this stock image. Now, you will notice I put that in there and it didn't have alt text. That's because I had gone in before creating this document and removed the alt text that is automatically included in all Microsoft stock images that you select from this library. This is one good reason for utilizing this library, because it will have alt text automatically included in it. So just consider that when you are creating your document. Now, let's move on to the next category in the Accessibility Assistant, tables. Tables has two different categories that can provide errors, and I've gone ahead and created errors for both of those categories. The first is missing table header. The table header simply goes in and describes what is being listed in a given table. Naturally, if you use the insert table function by going to insert and clicking table, telling it how many cells you want, it will naturally go ahead and assign the top row as your table header. Now, I've gone in and made that so that it does not show up like that, to be able to display what is happening here. We'll click on missing table header and you'll see that it highlights that top row. We get different options here, and really we're going to focus on just the first two. Typically, those are going to be the ones that you want to utilize. The first option is to use the first row as the table header. As you can see, I've got dates, show times, locations, reclining seats, and does the theater have ices in it for different movies that I'm thinking of going to see. And that is a pretty good explanation of what is being described in this table. Conversely, you could choose to use the first column as the header. Now, as it stands, the first column is just the dates as well as the names of the movies, which perhaps the names of the movies would be a good description of the table. But in this instance, we really want to try and use the top row. So we're going to come in here and click on use top row or use first row as the header. And it now knows that that is the header for this. The other issue that we have for the categories under tables is the use of merged or split cells. Merged or split cells are basically cells within a table that do not conform to the same columns and rows that the rest of the table has. In this case, we would have the Odyssey and Spider-Man Brand New Day as merged cells. All of those individual columns are merged into one individual cell. To fix this issue, we're better off by creating a new column that specifically highlights the movies that we are discussing, the two rows that are split or merged. So to do that, what we'll do is we will select within the date, we will come up here and on the table layout, click Insert Column Left. Then we will come up here to the header that we just designated as the header, and we will say the category for this column is movie. I will then take the information that is in the merged column or merged row and paste it here, since those two are the two show times for the Odyssey. Likewise, I'll come in here and copy the information for that movie, Spider-Man, and paste it here and here, since those are the show times and locations for that movie. Now, we've taken care of adding in the column. The last thing we need to do is come in here, highlight the row, and we want to delete cells. And we're going to select delete entire row. And likewise, come down here, highlight the entire row. We can also click here and delete rows. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns, each identifying the information below it. The movie header is part of the header, and it identifies the movies that we are looking to go see. And it has those movies included in the cells below. And as you can see, we have removed the use of merged or split cells. The next issue we are going to look at is document structure, which has two different categories under it: no heading in document and unclear hyperlink text. I needed to create a separate document to be able to show this first category of no headings in the document. Now, if you've taken notes in the past, you are somewhat already familiar with what headings and document structure involve. It's as simple as knowing what is tabbed in and what is level 1, what is level 2, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, this document has a lot of information here, and it does utilize bold headers, but Word does not necessarily recognize those as headings. To be able to handle that, you're going to want to go to your home screen, and you will see these styles here. There are a number of different styles, and if you click down, you can see that it gives you a lot of different options. And as we scroll over each of those, it changes the font and size of the first line, the line that I have my cursor on. Now, as it stands, we want this first heading to be the title, or level 1 for this document. So I'm going to click Title. As you can see, it changed understanding the water cycle from just bolded text that was the same size as everything else to a larger text. Now, it's worth noting that the structure does not take into account our branding guidelines. So you may have to go in afterwards and highlight this to change it to Open Sans. And as you can see, it changes it to Open Sans. Now, as I mentioned, there are different levels, and you can see from here, there are different, you have title, you have heading 2, or you have heading 2, and as you add those in, it will continue to create more and more of those. So we're going to go in and we're going to make the main stages of the water cycle our first heading, or heading 1. As you can see, that's slightly different than in size, color, and style as from the title. Now, the different aspects of the main stages of the water cycle are identified in here with information below. So the first stage in the water cycle is evaporation and transpiration. So we're going to come in here and we're going to give that heading 2. And there are different types of evaporation. So for the next heading, we're going to choose heading 3. Again, you can see that it is slightly different than heading 2. And as you can see, since I selected heading 2, heading 3 became available. When I selected heading 3, heading 4 became available. You can go down as many levels as you need to. But you will also need to know that you can have multiple headings of the same level back to back. So this is transpiration from plants. That's also level 3, a different type of evaporation and transpiration. So we're going to give that level 3 as well. But when we get down to condensation and cloud formation, that is the next step in the cycle. So we're going to click there and we're going to give that level 2. And as you can see, condensation and cloud formation is the same style and font as evaporation and transpiration. Again, cooling and condensation is a part of condensation and cloud formation, so we're going to give that level 3. The same with clouds, fog, and dew. And we can go as far down as we need to. Now, it's worth noting that when you do this, you will notice that there are little carets that show up to the left of your document. You can know that this is structured correctly by coming in here. If you click on those, the caret will change and it will collapse all of the regular font that is below that particular heading into the heading. So we can do that again. And now you see that there is cooling and condensation and clouds, fog, and dew that fall under condensation and cloud formation. If I click the caret next to that, all of the heading 3s as well as the text that was just beneath condensation and cloud formation disappear. Again, we can do that with transpiration from plants and evaporation from water surfaces, which are subheadings under evaporation and transpiration, which if we click there, now the first two stages of the water cycle are their own individual lines. Now, if there were other aspects that needed to be at the level of level 1, I could even click the caret there, and it makes all of that is under the main stages of the water cycle disappear. So this is a good way to know whether or not you have structured things correctly. Another way to be able to tell if you have structured things correctly is by clicking Control F, which we would normally use to do find. And as you can see, it does bring up the find section. However, if you come here and click headings, you will see that it creates all of those same headers that are tabbed in one after the other and show the structure of the document. You can see how it builds out as you go through and create new headers and subheads and subheads as it may pertain to your document. The last error that we are going to clear is also under the document structure. And to do so, we've come back to our initial document. As you can see, it is unclear hyperlink text. I've included a link here and pasted it as its long form. You will know that it's long form if it shows https:// and then whatever the full name of the link is. It will be the full navigation, which in its natural form is not accessible for screen readers. The reason for that is because if a screen reader were to come across this, it would read it as https:// forms.cloud.microsoft/pages/response page, and so on and so forth. And once it gets to this portion here, it would start reading each individual character as V75F8 and so on and so forth. It would take a considerable amount of time for a screen reader to get through just reading that one link. Also, this link doesn't necessarily tell me what this particular link takes me to. I might be able to infer a little bit, seeing as it has forms in there and some of the other context clues, but I may not be as familiar with that. So to solve both of these problems, we're going to come in here, we're going to highlight this link, we're going to copy it, and I've already come in here. This link actually happens to take you to the submission form for the ADA compliance Microsoft Forms submission that I created. So I'm going to highlight this line here, which is a description of what that link takes me to. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to come here to link. I'm going to make sure that when this box comes up, I have existing file or web page selected on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to paste the entire length of the entire navigation into the address line. I'm going to click OK. And now you see that the line that I typed out has become a hyperlink. Now, it still shows that we have unclear hyperlink text because this is here. But if I were to go here and then delete this, there you go. It has now cleared that error, and we have completely taken care of that issue. Once you have completely remediated your document and you have all checks on the accessibility assistant, you will need to make sure that you save your file such that it cannot be altered by anyone that it is sent to. To do this, you're going to go up to File, click Save As, and click More Options. Once you do that, you will come here to Tools and click General Options. Now, there are two different text fields that you can enter into. It is important that you make sure that you only utilize the second text field, which is password to modify. If you use the first text field, password to open, no one who does not have the password will be able to even open your document. We don't want that. We want them to simply not be able to change anything on the document. To do that, we will utilize the second text field. We will click in there and we will create a password that will be needed to be able to alter any of the documents. Otherwise, the document will come up as read-only. Now, it is not reasonable for you to have a different password for each one of your documents and have to remember each one of those passwords. Presumably, you may do this enough that you would have quite a few that would need to be remembered. My recommendation to you would be to come up with one unique password that you utilize for all documents that you are going to lock from modification. Now, in this instance, I'm not worried about having to remember it. We're just going to come up with a simple one. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see that it doesn't even show those characters. It simply shows the dots. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to click OK. And when I do that, it's going to ask me to confirm my password. So I'm going to go ahead and type 1, 2, 3, 4 in again. I'm going to click OK. And I am going to click Save. And now this file is saved and locked from being able to be edited by anyone other than myself. There are a few final items that are important to remember when you utilize the accessibility checker. The first is that you need to make sure when putting in your alt text, even though it may not show up as an error, you need to check every single image that you have in there to make sure that the alt text is in fact the alt text that you intend to be shown. There are times where generated alt text is incorrect, or sometimes just a garble of characters and words that don't mean anything and definitely don't relate to the image. So please be sure to go in, even if you don't have an error that shows up on the accessibility checker, and make sure that your font or that your image is in fact utilizing correct alt text and not just any text that would be included in there. Finally, a recommendation for if you do intend to create a PDF off of this document. My recommendation would be to go ahead and use this accessibility checker anyway. This checker will take care of a number of errors that the accessibility checker on the PDF would catch. And so you are doing yourself a favor utilizing this much simpler format to take care of many of those issues before they become issues in the PDF. This is a good idea to do no matter what. It just gets you into a accessibility first mindset, which we all should be trying to shoot for no matter the document that we create. With that, I will say thank you, and I hope that you check out our other videos on PowerPoint and Excel and other topics that we will be addressing surrounding ADA compliance. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice day.